the responses that we were getting were incredible. This has been the best AI he's ever worked with. Has also helped move that needle too, because you guys were able to do those updates so quickly and efficiently. I mean, again, you guys have been really great to work with.
All right. Well, hey, everyone. This is Jay and David with Callvera. We have Alicia. We'll talk about some cool things that are happening in the AI space, in the franchise space, and how this can impact your organization. So you want to stick around and figure out what the highest level franchises is using AI to standardize customer service.
So we'll just kick it off with a bit of context first and allow Alicia to probably introduce herself. So Alicia, obviously we've been working together. We know each other well, but for the people who don't know you, your role, what do you do? You want to introduce yourself and speak a little bit about your role in Horsepower?
For sure. Again, my name's Alicia Rowland. I'm the relationship manager for the call center vendor partners, and I work for Horsepower brands. So we have 9 brands within the home service space, and so I oversee our call centers.
That's awesome. And how long have you been in the space? Just out of curiosity, myself too.
For call centers, I've been in the business for over 30 years. However, for Horsepower, I've been here about 3.5.
And the main question is, I think originally, how did you find Callvera? I think you're one of the initial people that really tested out this idea fully into one of the large franchises yourself. How did you kind of find us? What was that initial relationship like, kind of working with the team, developing this out?
So we first became aware of Callvera because of you guys had actually sent us a cold call email for your outbound program that you used to offer. And so when we were around that same time, we had learned that one of your partners that you were currently working with and our CEO were Fred. And so when we learned that you guys had an AI space, we just started to navigate that path and just to kind of see where it would take us and what your options and features could be.
And then just to paint the full picture. So you obviously know all Horsepower stats inside and out. I know you work through them on a daily basis to see how much you do. Do you want to talk through the initial numbers? So obviously I have a rough idea of where Horsepower started at with the initial call center that you guys were running. But where did you guys start at from a call center perspective, and what was important for you to see that you wanted to like change and improve?
We just also wanted to look at, the conversion rates and everything else. So, and we'll kind of get into it in a little bit too, but when you have a call center, 80% of the calls are answered within 20 seconds. And so oftentimes calls would get missed. And so it was just really important to us to be able to see better conversion rates, more calls getting answered, because every unanswered call is a missed opportunity. And so again, we just wanted to focus on getting those conversion rates increased for our franchisors.
If you're comfortable with it, are you happy walking through some of the numbers that you guys were going through at those times in terms of conversion rates and that type of thing?
Yeah, for sure. So with the live agent call center vendor partner we were working with, we were seeing an average between roughly about 40 to 45% conversion rates. So just a little shy of 50%. However, our first 90 days with Callvera, we were seeing anywhere between 50 to 55% right out of that gate. And now we've been almost a year with you guys, and we're seeing more, 45 to 55, just depending on our brand. So in that, for both inbound and outbound opportunities, because again, those calls are getting answered. So that's, I think, why we're seeing that.
And that in terms of management, because obviously you're handling all of the management across these 9 separate brands. Most people are the call center manager for one brand. So I know just based on how much we communicate with each other on back and forth, doing that, managing also live agents, I can imagine is pretty intense. And so did your workload change much implementing the system?
When we moved over to Callvera, again, you guys had made this process so easy to use that I was able to successfully onboard multiple locations very quickly and efficiently. Another thing is that you'd provided me the admin access as well, where I can go and maintenance the accounts myself. So if something needed to be tweaked or updated, I didn't have to go back and wait on you guys to go and as a vendor partner and update it for me. And that has saved me so much time, because it's not me having to go back and follow up on an email or a response from your team, or I can just get it done and know it's checked off.
And then just so we're not going down all positives and stuff, what were the challenges that you had with us? Like any particular thing in terms of getting issues solved, or if there was issues, how quickly they took to resolve when working with us?
I don't have any issue. I mean, again, you guys have been really great to work with. However, just kind of some of the things that I was concerned with walking into this partnership is just the fact, could the AI really answer 99% of the calls? First, there are going to be a lot of downtime, because when you're dealing with technology and you don't have a live agent answering that phone, it's just kind of one of those things where you start to question and second guess. The other thing is that just what the limitations would be, what the questions that the AI was going to be able to answer, the outbound piece. And I do know that, when we first started working on the outbound, there was, a lot of testing that had to be done just to make sure that it was implemented and pushed out correctly, because outbound is a lot harder than inbound because you just never know what the call is going to be, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. What I've seen too is that like really with any solution that you implement, it's usually a couple different things that really are the lifeblood of that change. And like whether it's obviously conversion rates is an obvious one, but I think usually there's one or two main things that really makes it worth it, especially because conversion rates is great, but in your role, even in your day-to-day activity, I'm sure there's benefits of implementing this type of stuff. And so out of the two things, like what do you think was the biggest two needle movers? If you could just pinpoint it down to those two things, what would it be overall with the system?
So I think that the biggest pieces, one is the biggest is the cost savings that the seats are seeing. That's going to be a needle mover for sure. Just because again, traditionally, like I said, only 80% of those calls are getting answered, and a lot of times you have to do forecast and pay agents and everything else. Where when you have an AI agent, that's always there and available, and you don't have to worry about them being sick. That definitely has helped move that needle too. The other is again just the way that we structured it with being able to provide you guys the feedback, and also so we would do the testing, give you all the feedback, you guys would update and we would retest. And I just think that by taking the time to actually train the agent to make sure it was beneficial for what we needed for each individual brand has also helped move that needle too, because you guys were able to do those updates so quickly and efficiently.
All right, awesome. And then obviously we talked about it a little bit, like naturally, I think most people are going to be a little bit skeptical, especially if they've never implemented an AI system or even just AI in their company generally. Maybe they don't understand it. Maybe they don't see the use case of it, or maybe they just don't believe that it'll be successful with their company. I think naturally you probably would have been pretty skeptical before even trying this out. What do you think was the biggest challenges or not even challenges, but like what were they most skeptical of before actually putting this in?
I think like how robotic it was found, would customers just hang up on it because, we want instant gratification as humans, and we just want to make sure that we have everything answered and, buttoned up before it's rolled out. I think that was just making sure that it was fully trained, and how were we able to train it so quickly and get that information. But just like I said, the roboticness, just also making sure it did answer the 99% rate, and those kind of things is just kind of one of the things that we thought we needed to make sure. But when it came to outbound, I think that was where we really struggled, because like I said, it's a beast when you start thinking about outbound. But again, we're seeing, great success with that as well.
Yeah, I think definitely outbound took a little bit longer to properly dial in, but once you have it dialed in, it's really the lifeblood, because then once you can convert outbound, it's like, okay, cool. Obviously, people who want your service are going to be able to always get your service, but being able to convert people who may be interested in your service, that's a different ballgame. So that's awesome. I mean, I've asked a couple questions here. Obviously, I have a couple more, but do you think there's stuff that I almost missed that you think people in your position, or franchises or businesses, enterprises, whatever that is, would be curious to hear about your experience with either managing this system or just working with us generally?
Just what I want to call out is the fact that, we had a homeowner or a business owner go to a home show, and we had a franchisee walk up to him and tell him that, this has been the best AIs he's ever worked with. And just hearing that, I think is just proof in itself that we are, moving toward the AI space. This is up and coming. It's definitely going to be around quite a while. So it's, now's the best time to get into it. It's just because you can be on the brink of it. And then the other side of it is just making sure that with the AI systems, it's just like I said, it's really neat to see how much you guys can do, and I don't think that a lot of people understand what information that it has available. And you think that was another thing that we were kind of skeptical on, is it could it handle our business needs? Were they going to be able to answer the questions that our customers were going to be asking in our scope of work? And so when we were challenging it and asking those questions, the responses that we were getting were incredible. Again, when you are working with live agents, you have to train them on processes and procedures, but they're human and they're mistakes are gonna, but again, it's so nice to see with the AI that once we've trained it, it remembers and retains that information, that we're not only having to go back and retrain it. It's staying there and it's, learning as it's being asked more questions. And that's what's really cool about this whole process.
For sure, for sure. I can even speak from experience on that too. Like myself and my partner have been in literally the call center space for over a decade now, and we've ran inbound call centers across 5 different countries. And I know exactly what people are talking about, how much work is involved, how much training, SOPs. Like it's one of the most operationally complex things that you can do. So I can imagine that that is a little bit more helpful, not having to constantly retrain on that type of stuff too. From your perspective, if there was anyone watching this that would be either curious about working with us, is there anything in particular you'd say or recommend?
As I said, I've been in call centers for over 30 years. And, the quickness and the turnaround time that you guys are able to produce. You guys have just literally, you're so knowledgeable and you understand the space. And it's just been nice because every time, you have certain things that we're needing for data and such, and you guys are able to find a solution that's beneficial for both us and what works for your team as well. And that I just really appreciate. It's just been a great partnership that we're really learning and just kind of working together. The CRM, that's what I wanted to mention. With the live agent call center vendor partner, the brand was only able to have one CRM available. Where when we came over to Callvera, you guys were able to allow my franchisees to work with a CRM that best benefited their business. And that is, a great aspect of it as well. It's because you guys were able to implement several within your system. So it didn't matter which one they pick. We just got to pick which one to work best for their business model.
If you want to, like, in terms of people watching this too, is there somewhere that they can find either you, Horsepower, both of you, learn a bit more about what you guys do in the franchise space and the brands that you run?
Yeah, you can go to the website, just www.horsepowerbrands.com, and to learn more about the business. And if they have any questions, they can inquire through there.
Amazing.